Nation's top judge helps dedicate history in Jamestown.
Time Warner Cable 8 News at 7.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for watching Time Warner Cable 8 News on this Friday, May 16th, 2003. I'm Mark Ashgarian.
And I'm Casey Bortnick. Nice to have you with us.
Topping the broadcast, the United States Supreme Court Chief Justice William Rehnquist makes a stop in Jamestown today to honor his former boss.
Rehnquist pays his respects to Justice Robert H. Jackson today as he delivered the keynote address during the official dedication of the Jackson Center. The country's highest-ranking member of the judicial branch, 78-year-old Supreme Court Chief Justice William Rehnquist in Jamestown, to dedicate the center established as a legacy to his former boss, Robert H. Jackson. Rehnquist served as Jackson's law clerk in the 1950s and became a quick study of his work.
But what strikes me most about his court work was his masterful use of the English language. What makes this mastery truly impressive is the fact that Jackson had no formal education beyond high school, except a year at the Albany Law School. And certainly law schools are not places known for their teachers of great English prose style.
Rehnquist says although Jackson was instrumental in domestic cases, including a legal opinion regarding the separation of power between the country's three branches of government, that's still cited today, his greatest achievement was his work prosecuting Nazi war criminals following World War II.
Jackson said that his Nuremberg role, quote, was the supremely interesting and important work of my life, and an experience which would be unique in the life of any lawyer.
Rehnquist says Jackson's application of international law during the military tribunal was courageous despite criticism in the United States and overseas.
Whatever the merit of these objections, the Nuremberg trials were surely superior to the summary court-martial proceedings favored by some members of the administration and the summary executions initially favored by the British.
Chief Justice Rehnquist highlighted Jackson's work as the chief prosecutor during the Nuremberg war trials in the 1940s. Although Rehnquist says he was fascinated by the proceedings, he wasn't eager to ask Jackson about the experience due to the controversial nature of the war trials.
So I studiously refrained from asking him anything about them. But one day, a friend of mine who I'd known at graduate school was down visiting me. And then he said to Justice Jackson, what I'd never dared say, how do you justify the Nuremberg trials? There was this guy, 25 years old. Well, Justice Jackson went into a 10 or 15 minute eloquent justification of the Nuremberg trials. He actually welcomed the question, and I was pleased there to be in the audience just to hear it.
Rehnquist, who was elevated to the position of Chief Justice in 1986, served as Jackson's law clerk for a year and a half before the 82nd U.S. Supreme Court Justice passed away in 1954. Rehnquist says although Jackson's gone, his legacy of the American ideal of fairness and justice is something Chautauqua County should be proud of.
Surely Jamestown and Chautauqua County can be proud of the career of their native son on both the national and the international scene.
Well, after the speech, Rehnquist attended a lunch reception at the Chautauqua Institution where he was made an honorary member of the Norden Club, established for professional gentlemen of Swedish descent. Well, Chief Justice Rehnquist's speech was just a part of the official dedication of the Jackson Center's refurbished facilities on 4th Street. Hundreds of local judicial officials, political figures, and even members of Justice Robert Jackson's immediate family gather in front of the newly restored porch of the Jackson Center for today's dedication ceremony. The center was incorporated in March of 2001 and was created in part with $1.6 million raised in startup funds. Center President Greg Peterson says the facility was the vision of a small group of people, including the late Carl Kappa, Betty Lene Fairbank, and several local foundations. Peterson says the mission of the center is to advance the legacy and teachings of Jackson through education and exhibitry.
People the world over. 2 years ago, a small group gathered to discuss the concept of a living memorial to Justice Robert H. Jackson, which would advance his legacy through educational programming, exhibitry, a comprehensive website, and by pursuing the relevance of his idea to our time and generation.
Jamestown is the perfect place for such a center with such a grand mission. Jamestown was the beginning of Robert Jackson's career as a lawyer. And some may say that you should claim that you are the cradle of justice.
Melissa Jackson adds her grandfather always thought of Jamestown as home. Also at today's ceremony, Reverend Moritz Fuchs delivered the invocation and benediction. Fuchs served as one of Jackson's bodyguards at Nuremberg.
In addition to legal officials and dignitaries, hundreds of local students were in attendance to learn more about Robert Jackson and the country's judicial system. Students from Jamestown, Southwestern, and Faulkner taking part in today's ceremony. Among them, 40 senior government students from Maple Grove High School participating in an educational field trip. Jackson Center President Greg Peterson says educating youth on issues of justice and fairness and applying Jackson's views is one of the center's top priorities. Maple Grove government teacher Robert Plyler says he hopes today's ceremony and Justice Rehnquist's address will encourage students to take an active role in the judicial system.
Better understanding that they have a part in it all, that it's their lives and it's our government, not somebody else's government. In the paper, it doesn't seem, mine, and I hope they'll feel that it is after today.
What he has to say about Robert Jackson and the upcoming events, and because we just learned about everything about Chief Justices, so it'll be kind of interesting.
Also at today's ceremony, Faulkner's Ashley Schroeder is presented with the 2003 Robert H. Jackson Scholar Award. Schroeder's won an essay contest explaining how Jackson serves as a role model for future generations.